I've been able to benefit from the last two sessions, and I can see, as Kim just mentioned, how passionate the room, and I believe therefore the country, is about the importance of learning, the importance of education, and the hunger you have to build on what has already been established. And that is very motivating for myself, for my colleagues in the British High Commission who have been engaging with you on this journey throughout this decade of learning. Why are we here today, the next couple of days? Well, to celebrate success is an important part of any process, to take stock of what has been achieved, to celebrate it, to remind ourselves why what we're all doing together is making a difference and is important. So it's an opportunity also to thank all of our partners, whether they are from the provincial or the national government, from civil society, from low-cost private schools, from universities, from research institutes, and from commercial education service providers. Thank you for being part of this success story. You've heard a lot of numbers quoted at you today. I've got a lot more down here. I'm not going to repeat them, but we've heard some excellent statistics, most recently now from the panel here on the stage, of what in concrete, quantifiable terms has changed throughout the decade of learning. And it's worth pausing on those figures, because that is a way of reminding ourselves and anybody who has any doubts that the work that you have achieved is making a concrete difference in a very measurable way to the young people who are the future of Pakistan. It's also an opportunity to pause and to take stock, to challenge ourselves as to whether what we are achieving is a sustainable solution together or is at risk. And we heard from the Honourable Speaker who spoke last of the risk of de-learning. It is a thing. One doesn't accumulate and therefore bank and can guarantee the progress that's made. Things happen that can interrupt and get in the way of that progress. So the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is still being felt. There was a drop of 20% in all subjects in 2022. If we look back a little further to the horror of the 2005 earthquakes in Pakistan, children were out of school for 3 months. 4 years later, they were 1.5 years behind in their scolarity, in their scholarship. And that is an indication of how a disruption can be far more significant than one initially thinks. More recently, of course, we've had the tragic flooding in Pakistan. 3.5 million children across Pakistan affected, and 1 million may be dropping out of education because of economic pressures. The need to be doing something other than learning and investing for their future. By 2050, Pakistan's population, if current rates are to be consistent, will have doubled. And that makes a significant challenge, not just for the future labour market, but for providing education for that rapidly growing number of people, young people, who will need access. It's estimated that, going back to the COVID pandemic, the World Bank has estimated that the cost of the school closures to Pakistan's economy will come in at something like $155 billion US. This is how much the work you're doing matters, how much of a difference it makes, and how important it is to remind ourselves, even if Pakistan is going through a trying time at the moment with its economy, how important it is that education and investment in education remains part of the solution, is perceived as part of the solution, an investment in the long term of the country that is well worth undertaking. So challenges as well as successes. But in answer to a point made earlier in the panel, the British High Commission would be enthusiastic, if you will have us, about being part of an ongoing engagement on education. We heard from my distinguished colleague that we're not here to distort. We know who decides Pakistan's curriculum, who's in charge, but where we can help, we would like to help. And we would like to continue through our projects being part of your future success. You've heard about the DARE programme, you've heard about the GOAL programme, Girls and Out of School Children Action for Learning programmes. You know all, I'm sure, about the work of the British Council. And we intend to continue with that work, with your permission, as long as there is work to do. And I'm afraid my dear colleague might not have her ambition of seeing that work completed before she retires. I'm not saying that because for any particular reason. I think that this is a long-term project. And we have to look for long-term sustainable solutions rather than thinking that there is a quick answer. So what, you might ask? So what is the acting British High Commissioner doing up here, giving himself permission to make a speech on this? I'd like to challenge you over the course of the next couple of days as influencers, as decision makers, as policy makers, as educationalists, to think politically, with a small p, programmatically, technically, about what this conference might add to the ongoing debate of the future of education in Pakistan. And to think not just in philosophical terms, but in action-oriented terms, so that something concrete might come of this that continues to build on that decade to make sure we don't slip into de-learning, that we're driving forward with learning and relearning. So some challenges for you to have a think about, to take away. You know that diplomats don't do party politics. We're not allowed to. It's not our job. That's not what we're here for. So my challenge is for all political parties, whichever political party you might belong to or take an interest in, whether you think each political party in Pakistan could make a commitment to implement a 1 hour of reading session every day for every child in Pakistan. Is that something that the political classes could agree on as being a good thing, as the basis for any future education? Have a think about that, see if that's worth taking away. We heard a little bit about assessing, being able to evaluate progress that we're making, not just quantitatively, but qualitatively as well. So how about a national learning assessment measuring progress in early grade literacy? A way of finding out what impact the education is having, taking us away from the idea that by the age of, 9, a child should be performing like this, but understanding what impact the education has had so that the education can be tailored to the child's needs rather than to a specific cohort described in any other way. Is that something worth considering? And heard a little bit about bicycles earlier on. How about all political parties considering a commitment to a practical and budgeted, safe, accessible and free transport for all children, boys and girls, to and from school, to give them the opportunity for the education they're entitled to wherever they live in Pakistan? Take it away. Have a think about it, see if it's worth turning into a concrete proposal, policy or idea that could be implemented. I am sure you will have many more concrete ideas as well. So I hope that this event will generate additional, specific, actionable policy recommendations. I hope that you leave this conference as energized and as passionate as you came into it, with ideas for making a difference, for making that sustainable solution that sticks and that is the future of Pakistan. And I'm very grateful indeed for your permission to allow us, the British High Commission, to be a part of that journey. Thank you very much.